The Chicago Bulls find absolutely zero answers versus the Minnesota Timberwolves, give up a franchise almost high of 150 points, and seemingly continuity has failed. But unlike everybody else out here, right, I'm not just going to come on here and say, we suck, that's it, blow it up. No. Hey, here's the question. You got to figure out from where you're starting now, how do we fix this? Let's talk about that starting now. Now, if you are new to the channel, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the page, man. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel talking Chicago sports, how Chicago talk. So make sure that you get in tune with us, man. Listen, I mean, honestly, let me know how you guys feel about this team, how you're feeling about what we saw last night from this Bulls team. Here's the thing that I'll say. At the beginning of this season, we can clearly see that continuity has not worked. It just hasn't, right? Like, you look at this team, I can't go out there and say that Zach LaVine has played up to being the max player that this Bulls wanted. I can't go out there and say that DeMar DeRozan has been the same DeMar DeRozan his last season. I can't say Nikola Vucevic is playing up to snuff the way that we've seen him play, right? The Bulls starters have not played, or stars have not played well, right? But here's the thing. How do we fix this? Because you have a lot of talent on your team, but for some reason that talent is not working together. And the first thing that stands out to me the biggest, right, is the lack of point guard play at the position. We thought that Ayo Dosunmu was going to be the answer at that, and he just hasn't been this season, right? He's kind of hit that second-year rookie wall, hasn't played as well to me defensively this season, but I still think that there's a lot of good in Ayo. I think, right, like just second-year rookie wall, sophomore slump, my bad. Second-year sophomore slump for Ayo Dosunmu, but not to say, right, like that's the end of the world for Ayo. I think that he has a lot of basketball ahead of him, a lot of good basketball ahead of him, and I'm excited about what he's going to become in this NBA, right? I think that he just has to get a little bit more of an opportunity to do what he wants to do that fits more of his play style, and you've tried to kind of pigeonhole him into this point guard position. But on top of that, right, I think that that's the biggest missing piece for the Chicago Bulls team. Not to say Lonzo Ball coming back, if he ever does, is the ultimate fix for this. Not to say, oh my goodness, we got Lonzo back, we're right back in the mix. Not at all, right? But I do think that the ability Lonzo had to run the floor and get this team out on the run and gun and step up defensively, that's something that nobody else on this team has right now. And so I think you need to try a few different things at the point guard position, right? We've gone with the Alex Caruso experiment. Works okay in the half court, but I don't think it gets it done when you're talking about running the floor, right? And listen, there's a lot to be said about also Lonzo's rebounding ability when that was in there, right? Like that broods a little bit more to the small ball lineups that we see, and I don't think that we're seeing that here. So at this point, right, like listen, try Goran Dragic at that position. At a minimum, we know Dragic will get the ball off of the inbound. He'll be able to move the ball well. He's a really good facilitator. He's great with the no look dimes, right? Like. And I know there's a lot of people that are going to say, but Pat, we got to save him for the playoffs. We got to get to the playoffs, my boy. Like, listen, I understand Goran Dragic shouldn't be running 35 minutes a night. I get that. That's not where I wanted to be with this team either. But right now, you have absolutely zero answers at the point guard position. Oh, but Pat, how are you going to say that when you know he's not going to be good defensively? You gave up 150 points last night, my guy. Like there's no defense on this team in the last couple of games anyway. You might as well at least try to outscore somebody. And I think that Dragic at least gets the ball moving. I'm not saying that this is a permanent fix. I think that the other thing that AK needs to be doing is looking to acquire somebody before this trade deadline. I think point guards are really a real position of need for this team, because there has to be somebody that's going to be able to come in, is going to be able to control this offense. And I don't think you have that. I don't think you have the extension of your head coach on the floor, right? Like that's what your point guard is supposed to be. Your head coach implements a system, point guard goes out there implements that system to the rest of the team. We don't have that guy right now. You can see it, right? Caruso's might kind of be that guy, but at the end of the day, right, it comes down to, okay, give the ball to DeMar, let DeMar go to work. Okay, give the ball to Zach, let Zach go to work. And that's just not the recipe for a good offense. And there are moments, right, where we see the Bulls doing good things offensively. Ball is moving, but the ball usually starts in somebody's hands outside of DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine in those situations, right? Those are the moments where you do see Io moving it around, or P. Will bringing the ball up. Heck, at this point, give P. Will some run at the point forward position and see, right? Like, I'm not saying that he's going to come out here and be a world beater, but you need to try and find some answers on that to get your offense moving in the right direction. It just isn't moving at all, essentially. And we see a lot of the same stagnant plays every time down the court. The other thing for me at this point, right? Try the kid. I don't understand why you draft people to never play them. I get it, right, if you're in a winning situation. I do. I understand it. I get it if you're in a situation where the Chicago Bulls are still hovering around 500, but you're now at 11-18. You've completely slid this season. You've started this season off horribly. You're not even in contention for anything at this point, but there's still a long way to go, and there's still a lot of answers that need to be figured out. So for me, right, like, try the kid. Let's see what Dalen has to do, right? He's down at the Windy City Bulls balling out. Clearly, he doesn't belong down there. I think he's got more talent than most of the people down there, right? Like, I get you're trying to get him some run, get him some development, get him in. And maybe that is, right? Like, here's the thing. I know a lot of people are like, the Windy City Bulls are running a better system than the Chicago Bulls. They're actually probably just running the system Billy wants to run. So that's probably why you're seeing Dalen Terry down there, to get him acclimated to what the system is, so that when he's ready, he can come up and play a little bit of that point guard position for you. I would love to see Dalen get in there and get an opportunity to be the point guard for the Chicago Bulls team, and I think that he would fit really well, especially with Ayo Dosunmu playing even more off ball, right? Like, I think now you're opening yourself up for even more options, and then on top of that, throw some Kobe White in there with it as well, man. Kobe's been balling, and I just think you need to find out what you need to pick a direction, right? That's kind of the next thing. And let me know how you guys feel in the comments below, man. Do you feel like the point guard play on this team has been subpar? Do you feel like the Bulls have to do more with the point guard play that we've seen to this point in the season? I'll be down to talk it with you as well. I think the other thing is, right, you need to pick a direction. When we're talking about the point guard play, right? Dalen Terry, to me, is picking a direction that's going youth over the experience at that position, and right now that might be what you need. But you need to pick a direction with this team as a whole. You need to look at this team and say, okay, hey, listen, because you thought that Patrick Williams was going to take this big step this year, right? That's what AK said. You thought that Ayo Dosunmu was going to take this big step this year, but you haven't given them the tools for them to go out there and do that, right? You haven't given them the shots to go out there and do that, right? Like, listen, Patrick Williams is the only fourth pick in the draft that I know that gets less than 10 shots a game. Right? And he's taken more than 10 shots one time this season. He's taken more than 10 shots 21 times in his career. What step is he supposed to take on 8 shots a game? What step is he supposed to accomplish on 8 shots a game? Ayo Dosunmu, very similar. And you see, at least with Ayo, right, when he does get shots up, eventually those shots start to fall. And so for me, right, I think that you have to decide, right, what's the direction you want this Bulls team to go. I'm not saying blow this team up to the studs and let the young guys play. That's not where you're at, right? That's dumb. Because then you're going to end up where Oklahoma City is, and Oklahoma City's not in a good position. Although this season they might be, actually. Where they at in the standings? This season, actually, OKC might be cooking a little bit, but I'm pretty sure they're still getting cooked, just off general knowledge of it. But no, I think the big thing is, right, like, coming into this season, we bet on experience. We bet on the veterans. We bet on the guys that were here, that were in this position, and you thought were going to be your leaders going into next season to take that next step. Hey, guess what? That has not worked. It just hasn't, right? Like, and so you have to also look at kind of where this team is at right now, and as you're heading toward the trade deadline, as you're starting to head into getting ready to go into the second half of this season, right? Like, hey, you got to pick a direction here. Do you want to go with the youth? Do you want to go with the experience? I'm not saying at every position, but I think, right, like, you need to be looking at everybody being on the table heading toward this deadline. 100%. You need to be, the Thunder are better than us. By 1 game. That's where we're at right now, Bulls fans. The Thunder are better than us by 1 game. But no, I think you need to be looking at, kind of trying to make some decisions that put you in a position not just for the now, but also for the future. Especially with looking at how the draft capital that you've given up and how this team hasn't come together, right? Like, I think that you needed to. I do. I do believe that you had to make the moves, that AK had to make the moves that he made to make the Chicago Bulls respectable. But now it's not only about being respectable in the short term, it's about being respectable in the long term. And right now, right, like you don't have any answers in the long term. You don't know who's what and who's not. I think that when you're coming down to this, right, like every option in the book, down to trading the coach, needs to be on the table. I know Muzz are looking at me like, Pat, are you for real now? But right, like something's not working here. And you need to identify what that is quickly. Because if you continue down this path, there's not going to be any answers that are going to change anything. And listen, everybody in the locker room, again, sounds great. I told y'all, when you listen to Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Billy Donovan, oh, this is embarrassing. I'm so sick of hearing DeMar DeRozan saying this is embarrassing. I'm so sick of hearing DeMar DeRozan say this is embarrassing because clearly nobody's that embarrassed. You're not playing better defense the next game. Clearly nobody's that embarrassed. You're not coming out with more intensity the next game. You're not coming out with more life the next game. So here's my thing, right? Like when I'm looking at the pieces that are in place, the leadership pieces that are in place, okay, hey, who's going to be the guy that's going to step up and say, get it together, and is going to be willing to ruffle some feathers? Listen, I love that these guys are all friends. I love that they get along. But you know what? Sometimes everybody being all kumbaya ain't the answer. You need that guy that's going to go out there and ruffle some feathers. And the Bulls don't have that dude. I thought maybe they had that dude, Andre Drummond, but he don't even get ticked some nights, which makes zero sense to me, as we got out-rebounded woefully. You know what I mean? So for me, right, like I just, there are no answers right now, but you need to start to try some different things to find those answers because, and not to say Billy Donovan has it, and I think that the thing is, right, Billy Donovan has tried to find some answers. He's tried to make some lineup changes, but Billy's also not, I'm going to try this for one game and see how this is going to work. Billy's going to run it for a couple of games, which I'm cool with, right? Caruso being out there at the starting point guard position. He's running that for a few games to try and see if he likes it. Guess what? At some point, we probably will get the Dragic. At some point, we probably will get the Dalen, just to see kind of where we're at and if there's anything there that works. But you have to figure out that combination that works a little bit quicker, my boy, because you know what? The slide continues. You've now lost 4 in a row. You got Miami next. It does not seem like this schedule's going to do you any favors, right? And you're not even playing the teams and beating the teams that I think you're supposed to be able to beat. You have no answers, and you're heading toward a 7-game losing streak real quick. And then listen, AK is going to have to start taking some of these calls. Like he's going to have to at least start listening in on some of these calls that at the trade opportunities that are going to come. But hey, I do want to know how you guys feel, man. Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down at Target with you as well. As always, man, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again to continue watching our Chicago Bulls content. Click the links on the screen right around here, or check the links in the description below. It's going to be a long season, Bulls fans. Stick with me for all of it, man. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Peace.